Hi, Swadis, how are you doing? Welcome to Niasim. Hope you are doing great. Came across video talking about how and why black people have decided that they won't be supporting anybody anymore, at least for now, because you and I can see how they are still resting, they are still on vacation, and I love the fact that they are enjoying their vacation because they deserve that. Enough of people taking advantage of people. So white women weighed in on that and how they are always asking black people, like, are we invited for the cookout and all that? Cookout is no longer for everybody. Cookout is a sacred place for black people. And also black people, enough of bringing everybody to the cookout. Cookout is not for people that are not like you. For somebody to make it to the cookout, you might have known the impact the person may have, like, impacted around and all that. But it's not something that should be every second, every minute. Enough of that. And a white woman decided to talk about how black people have been helping everybody, but they, women, are very wireless. I know why I said it like that. They are very violent to people that look like me. And then she decided to list all the people that have been unalive, probably because a white woman said this or a white woman said that. That's at this very moment those people are not did not make it alive, and it has actually been a pattern right from history because their tears is worth how many thousands of black lives. But you know what? Let's get into this video.
I want to go a little deeper and I want to talk to you white people about why you've lost the support of majority of black people, especially majority of black women, because black women ain't doing shit right now. Rightfully so. Because again, they always show the fuck up and show the fuck out for the right things in history, and we all know how it works out for them. We know that it is not met with an equal showing up. We know it's not. I'm going to tell you exactly why, especially this time, you've lost the support of black people, because, and I've talked about this before, but I really want to make it fucking known. Okay? Do you honestly think that if they wanted to get rid of black people, they wouldn't have done it already? Why haven't they done it already? Okay? They exterminate just enough of us on national television via police. Just enough of us to keep us, to make people think, we're getting rid of just a few of them. To get white people to think, yes, we're exterminating them. They do just enough. Do you honestly think that they wouldn't have deported us already? They're getting rid of undocumented immigrant after undocumented immigrant. And they're even getting rid of legal people. It's been proven they're getting rid of legal people. Do you honestly think they wouldn't have done that shit to us already if they wanted to just get us out of the country? No, they want us fucking dead. They want us dead. But they only want enough of us dead to prove a point, but they want the rest of us to be here so that we can rebuild the country that they're about to fuck up. Because we have a good track record of doing that. We have a good track record of keeping Master's house clean. We have a good track record of keeping the fields freaking plowed. We have a good track record of doing all that shit and picking the cotton. We have a good track record of all that shit. Country was built on the backs of my ancestors and all of your ancestors. We have a good fucking track record of that. You really think they're not going to get rid of all of us, but they're going to get rid of as many as they can, just because in this white nationalist country, they're going to get rid of a good amount of us if they can. But do you honestly fucking think that if they didn't want us in this country, do you really think that they couldn't have done it already? You really think that they couldn't have deported us? How many racists have we had in the position of power as president? You really think that they couldn't have done this already? You think Reagan couldn't have done it? Reagan shit is still fucking us up as it is, and it's going to continue to fuck us up no matter what we do. Do you really honestly think that they couldn't have gotten rid of us if they wanted to? They could have. They could have done it this whole time. They're proving it right fucking now, but they're not going to, because of our track record, because of the shit that they made us do back in the day, because of our track record. And that exactly, white people, is why you've lost the support of the black woman, one of the biggest support systems that you have ever had in this country in your history. And it's why you also have lost the support of many black people, and why they're saying, not my job anymore. Not my job, because they're still going to kill some of us. They're still going to try and get us binded by the law in some way. They're still going to lock some of us up, but they're never going to fully get rid of us because they could have already been done that. That's why you've lost their support. And it's not because you voted for the man. It's because people who looked like you voted for the man, which is very, very telling, because it shows, and also some of you who did not vote for that man also didn't show up at the voting booth anyway. But some of you who did show up at the voting booth and voted for the right side of history and actually wanted to see change in this country, there wasn't enough of you because demographically, y'all didn't show up enough. That's why you've lost the support of black people. Not me specifically. I have a different reason for continuing my support, and it's because I used to be an absolute complete fucking dickhead, and I used to be a conservative, and I really want to wash that way of thinking completely away from me. I have turned my back on some black people before and have used those stupid racist talking points that black conservatives still use to this day. That for me is why I continue my support, because I don't just owe it to people as a whole. I owe it specifically to my people who I have partaken in the oppression of. Now, granted, a lot of those years were me as a teenager, so I didn't have as much of an effect as other people have had on us, but I still had an effect because I actually did partake in it, and that's wrong. So that's why I continue my support, because I truthfully need to help fight for not only everybody, but specifically my people. And I'm always going to show support in every way that I can. I'm always going to continue to vote. I'm going to continue to do everything that I can, protest all this shit. But that's for me. But majority black people who have always stuck together, yeah, you best believe y'all should stay the fuck home. Stay home. Stay home. Do you. Don't fucking go out with these people. Don't do any of the shit that they're doing right now, because they haven't showed up for you, and we already know this. End of story. That's why you've lost the support, because you just don't, you refuse to open your eyes and truly see. This is life. This has been life for majority black Americans in this country, and now you get to play the game with them. You get to play the game, and I hope you enjoy it, because this is the game that majority of your people voted for. Now you get to play the game. You get to see what it's like, and y'all don't like that.
Call out white women too. They get away with the most, especially against black people. So I'm using your comment to respond, but this video is for white women. America has done a really good job as painting white women as these innocent and passive bystanders when it comes to the atrocities that have been committed against black people. We saw white men physically carrying out those murders and violent acts, but in reality, in most cases, it was white women that were the mastermind behind them. The rest of this video is going to be examples of times when white women were the masterminds behind these violent acts and murders. So trigger warning. First, let's talk about the Rosewood Massacre. In 1923, a white woman named Fannie Taylor had an affair on her white husband with another white man. That white man beat and raped her, and instead of taking accountability for what she did, she blamed her attack on an innocent black man named Jesse Hunter. There was no evidence that he actually did it, and they could not find him. So they launched a manhunt in Rosewood. I'm going to read an article explaining the details of what happened. On January 2nd, a mob of white men kidnapped, tortured, and lynched Sam Carter, a black craftsman from Rosewood, on suspicion that he had helped Jesse Hunter escape. White men continued to terrorize Rosewood, searching for Mr. Hunter, and black residents armed themselves in defense. Late on the night of January 4th, a white posse fired into the home of black Rosewood resident Sylvester Carrier, whom they suspected of harboring Mr. Hunter, and killed an elderly woman. A gunfight between Mr. Carrier and the mob lasted into the early morning, killing people on both sides. Outraged that black residents had fought back, the posse left the scene to regroup and returned with more men. On January 5th, a mob of between 200 to 300 white men attacked Rosewood, killing an estimated 30 to 40 black men, women, and children on site, and burning the town to the ground. Black residents hid in the woods and fled by train to Gainesville, Florida, never to return. Survivors later recounted that Fannie Taylor had made false accusations against Jesse Hunter to conceal her extramarital affair with a white man. A whole successful black town destroyed because a white woman couldn't keep her legs closed and not cheat on her husband. Next is the story of Emmett Till. In the summer of 1955, 14-year-old African-American Emmett Till had gone on vacation from Chicago to visit family in Money, Mississippi. He was shopping at a store owned by Roy and Carolyn Bryant, and someone said he had possibly whistled at Mrs. Bryant, a white woman. At some point around August 28th, he was kidnapped, beaten, and pew-pewed in the head, had a large metal fan tied to his neck with barbed wire, and was thrown into the Tallahatchie River. His body was soon recovered, and an investigation was opened. Roy Bryant and his half-brother Jay Milam were accused of the murder, and an all-white, all-male jury acquitted the both of them. In 2007, at age 72, she told Duke University senior research scholar Timothy Tyson that she had lied about Till having made verbal and physical advances on her. In a new book, The Blood of Emmett Till, Tyson writes that she told him, "Nothing that boy did could ever justify what happened to him." In 2007, a grand jury in Mississippi declined to indict the white woman who accused 14-year-old Emmett Till of making advances towards her nearly 70 years ago, allegations that led to the black teen's brutal death. Emmett Till never got justice. Next is the case of the Scottsboro Boys. On March 25, 1931, 9 black teenagers, Hayward Patterson, Clarence Norris, Charlie Weems, Olin Montgomery, Ozzie Powell, William Robertson, Eugene Williams, Roy Wright, and Andy Wright were riding a freight train through Alabama looking for work during the Great Depression. 2 white women, Victoria Price and Ruby Bates, were also on board. After an altercation between the black and white men on the train, the white woman accused the black teens of rape to avoid charges of illegally riding the train and possibly sex work. All white juries and rush trials resulted in 8 death sentences. The youngest, Roy Wright, was only 13 and got a mistrial. No physical evidence supported the accusations, and Ruby Bates later recanted, saying that no rape ever occurred. The Supreme Court overturned their convictions in 1932 due to ineffective counsel, a key factor in the case. The Scottsboro Boys were retried multiple times, and while 4 of them were eventually released, 5 others were convicted and sentenced to prison terms, including 1 death sentence that was later commuted to life. The state of Alabama eventually granted posthumous pardons to the 3 Scottsboro Boys who had not been pardoned or had their convictions overturned. I apologize if I have misspoken on this particular story, because the court cases and the hearings are very confusing to read because there were so many trials on these. So if I said anything wrong, please just correct me in the comments. Next is the story of Lena Baker. She worked for a white man named Ernest Knight, who was a local grist mill owner. Knight was abusive, sexually exploitive, and allegedly held Baker against her will, a dynamic that mirrored slavery. According to court testimony, Knight locked Baker in his grist mill for days at a time, and she said she was fearful for her life. On April 30th, 1944, Baker shot and killed Knight during a physical altercation, stating that it was in self-defense and that he tried to hit her with a metal bar. She immediately turned herself into police and explained everything. She was tried by an all-white, all-male jury. Her court-appointed lawyer did nothing in her defense and did not appeal her conviction. She was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death by electrocution. Now, her abuser was a white man, but it was white women that had a huge role in her death. These women used their social capital as white women to push the myth of Baker being a sexual threat, a historical trope used to justify countless lynchings and executions. Her last words were, "What I done, I did in self-defense, or I would have been killed myself. Where I was, I could not overcome it. God has forgiven me. I have nothing against anyone. I picked cotton for Mr. Pritchett, and he has been good to me. I am ready to go. I am one in the number. I am ready to meet my God. I have a very strong conscience." In 2005, she was pardoned posthumously by the Georgia State Board of Pardons and Paroles. Next is the story of Susan Smith. In 1994, she murdered her own children, 3-year-old and 14-month-old sons, then falsely claimed a black man carjacked her and kidnapped them. An enormous manhunt targeted innocent black men. Her lie played on racial stereotypes and could have led to more deaths. She eventually confessed to the murders. It is 2025, and white women are still calling the police on black people that are doing absolutely nothing to them. Walking, barbecuing, bird watching, sitting in a Starbucks, just existing. And they always say the same thing, "I was scared." Now let's talk about the involvement of white women in slavery. When people think of slavery, a lot of people assume and visualize male slave owners, but there were a lot of white women that owned slaves. According to History.com, it's estimated that 40% of slave owners were white women. Martha Washington, who was George Washington's wife, was responsible for dramatically increasing the enslaved population in Mount Vernon. White women were active and violent participants in the slave market. They bought, sold, managed, and sought the return of enslaved people in whom they had a vested economic interest. Owning a large number of enslaved people made a woman a better marriage prospect. They Were Her Property, which is a book, appends a lot of older scholarship. For example, previous scholars have argued that most Southern white women didn't buy, sell, or inflict violence on enslaved people because this was considered improper for them. But Jones-Rogers argues that white women were actually trained to participate from a very young age. In 2019, Gretchen Kell from UC Berkeley interviewed the author of They Were Her Property, Stephanie Jones-Rogers. She was asked about the treatment of slaves by white women, slave owners, and this is what she said. The institution of slavery necessitated a culture of violence, and white women and girls were a part of this culture. In order to sustain the institution and to keep enslaved people in a state of near submission, violence and the threat of violence were vital. This culture of violence also created opportunities for some people to indulge their propensity towards sadism, and women were not immune to this. Women perpetrated acts of extreme violence against enslaved people for the same reasons that white men did.
Black people know things white people don't. Before I go on, you can check my video notes for the references I used to create this video. Generations of white Americans were raised with a story that made us feel like heroes. We learned about abolitionists, not about the banks that provided insurance on enslaved people. We learned about the civil rights movement, but not about the white mobs who terrorized black families for trying to move into a better neighborhood. Systemic racism didn't just hurt black people, although they were the ones that took most of it. But it also misinformed white people, and that pisses me off. It trained us to see unfairness and injustice as progress. That's why when black folks talk about redlining, medical racism, or why certain laws hit their communities so much harder, many white people are just confused, or worse, and probably more commonly, they're defensive. It's not just ignorance, it's conditioning. The system made sure we didn't see the whole picture, because once we did, we might start asking too many questions. White people need to hear the truth from people who live it. But that takes a toll on black people. They've had to survive what we've only begun to learn about. And it's not fair to put that burden on them. That's why I study, listen, and talk to other white folks. It's not about guilt, and it's not about blame. It's about repair. Black people already know this history. White people need to know it too, because it's our history. It's our history too. Silence keeps the system working in the way that is unjust. Don't be afraid. You should be mad about what was kept from you on purpose. Now you have the opportunity to learn about it and start organizing your life differently. I am not an expert, but I love learning. You can put my username into your search engine. Scroll down if you want to help me out. You guys are the greatest. Get curious.
Black people rest. Don't listen to what the other folks are telling you. That you always have to be ready. Ready to fight. Ready to put your life on the line. There's no rest for the wicked. The righteous rest. Black people rest. And regain your energy. Continue to practice organized indifference. You are allowed to rest. You're allowed to not always have to be a workhorse. There are people really saying black people can't rest. And we need to always be ready. We need to get up and fight, fight, fight. How many years of that? How many years of that is it going to be? When do black people get to rest? Now. And we're going to. If you are a black person, rest. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
We told you you'd be next, that's why you should have got out in the streets. No, we told you we'd be next. That's why we stayed inside. It's better for y'all to go out there because they won't pound you into the ground. When we said we were resting, y'all heard we were doing nothing. Because that's what you would have done, and that's what you have done. Nothing. Up until this point, most of y'all couldn't be bothered to go out in the streets because it wasn't happening to you. But now that it is, you want everybody's care, concern, and compassion. Even though you never offered it to us. All while we willingly gave it to you and still do. How do you think we have yet to reach martial law? Why do you think this country hasn't officially broken out in civil war? Because they can't use black folks as a scapegoat when we aren't there. So they've had to make up all these different excuses and pull them out their ass just to make something, anything else, the source of their dysfunction, the cause of their failure. Instead of marching, we've been boycotting. Instead of marching, we've been organizing, pulling money to support each other's financial needs. We've been offering each other assistance in the wake of the government coming down on us because guess what? We've been the target the whole time. All these black people being removed from their offices. All these black women losing their jobs. All these police officers who are now allowed to profile us by our looks, by our color. Like it's before the Civil Rights Act. We've been under attack before this and now they've made it distinct. All of this before that building on the south side of Chicago got raided. All of that. And you dare look at us and say, told you so? No, we've been told you so. Don't act like you care now because we didn't want to carry the burden that you should have been carrying. Guess what? This requires everyone to pull their own weight. Don't stop now, baby. You're just getting started. You got a lot
All I got from this video.
So get to it or get gone because we gonna keep going.
The truth is that you and I already know why black people have decided that their support should be, they are no longer saving democracy. Not only are they saving democracy, let other people go out there and save democracy because they have done this job for decades. And they have been doing, they've done it greatly. They know so much on what black people know, white people do not know it, and other people of color do not know it, especially when it comes to politics. They are very versatile. They are very, very good when they can predict. And not just predicting, it's just them understanding the system that has been messing around with them. And them saying that enough is enough. We are no longer in for this. Because there is nothing like people, you know, when people know how to take advantage of people, they will take advantage of you till thy kingdom come. Because they already know what they are doing. They already know that anytime they call black people will always come up. Black people will always show up for them. This is something they've been doing. And they have been taken advantage of. And they said that we are no longer doing this anymore. Because why would they still continue to help? Why would they still continue to save everybody when nobody is willing to save? All this violence you and I are seeing today, like everybody dragging black people left, right, center, and all that, trying to tell them, like, you know, how to behave, how to act, how to do this and all that. It's also part of it. Why? Because when you've been doing something for people and you stop doing it, they already feel entitled that each time I call them, they will always show up, no matter what it is they are going through, no matter what is happening to them, they will always show up. When you don't show up, you are absolutely the worst person. But when you show up, oh, you are the kindest. But the worst part of this showing up is that when you are done showing up, they do not remember you and they will never acknowledge you till they need you again. You know, I have said this, you know, sometimes black people are too considerate, no matter how hard they act. Sometimes they are too considerate. They forgive easily. That was one of the reasons why I keep saying back then, last year, that it's okay to hold grudges. Black people are not so good at holding grudges. When you apologize and all that, they will say, all right, it's okay, let's move on. But I love the kind of black people I am seeing today. They are holding that grudges to any extent you want it. When you apologize and they feel the apology is not straight up from the heart, they will say no. And when they say no, that is it. Sometimes you see some people come to the, make a video, say something, and then you hear things like, oh, you are invited to the cookout. Are you guys inviting me to the cookout? Enough of inviting everybody to the cookout. Cookout is more like a sacred place where people do not go. I mean, but for you to make it to cookout, you must have done your job. You must have done the work. So cookout is not for everybody you see on the internet. Yeah. So enough of bringing in people just because you want them to feel among, or just because you want them to feel loved. You can love them from far away, but enough of that cookout. And when we talk about why Black people decided to withdraw their support on these people, now, did you hear what this woman talked about when she talked about white violence? How people that look like me have been taken advantage of. And the worst part is that they are always right, no matter what it is. They will be heard first before you are heard. Why? Because it's their world. They will hear from them first. Excuse me. Before hearing from me. Because if you look at all some certain kind of death that happened to people that looked like me back then, that will also show you their tears is worth more than how many Black persons. That is how bad it is. So their violence is actually very much. So when Black people say, you see our support, we are no longer going to do it. Anybody that chooses to support, it's okay. But one thing I'm going to tell you is that 90-something% of Black women, 80-something% of Black men did an amazing job, and they were the only people that showed all out for everybody. But them showed up for themselves and for their stomach. Now they are regretting it, but they still want you that did the right thing to still go out there to fight for them. That is how insensitive they are and how selfish they are. I will draw my curtain here. I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.